This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, I asked Joey about saying things wrong, but actually a little right.
Woo! Summer breeze makes this a podcast. This is what a Joey sounds like. And this is what an executive producer and the mama and the papa, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Why? Hi, this is Jess.
Why? The mamas and the papas. I don't even know. I don't think the mamas and the papas sing Summer Breeze. Anyways, but I don't know. I'm making these things up live. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah. Jess, do we have any housekeeping? No.
Yeah,
right?
we do. I have to
Seals
share...
and Croft. Corrections Department, Seals and Croft saying Summer Breeze.
So that
Sure.
I am now not a Mamas and a Papas, but a Seals and Croft.
Yes.
Okay. I would just like to say, in honor of our very own Aaron Powers, that 2 days ago I went to the grocery store and acquired some lettuce, only to return to my home to open the lettuce and discover that it was on the absolute precipice. I would say hours away from going bad. And I was so upset because this is like the local grocery store. I've opened this package. There is no returning of this item. It was just my missing Lego piece moment. If you remember the conversation that we had with Aaron, listeners, about the feeling of frustration when you are the only one in the world who cares about this problem that you have found yourself in, and there's no one who really wants to rectify it for you. And it just happened to me, and it was a really sad thing. And I made the saddest salad, and I only ate a few bites, and I was like, this is bad and horrible, and that's the end of that. It's a terrible story. But now you know. So,
now you know.
We miss Aaron.
We miss you, Aaron. Jessica, questions.
Joey.
This is sort of a fun little joint emergent question from a conversation, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah. We were talking, and Jess was mentioning that there's a new person at the company that has a name, as apparently most people do, I think. But in Jessica's head, that name does not match.
This is the problem.
This person has a name.
I can't
not
explain.
Not the right one.
That's the thing. Is like, every time I look at them, I'm like, I know I'm wrong. Like, I know I'm absolutely wrong because like there can only if you're named what you're named, then that's how it is. Even if you decide to call yourself a certain thing, like that's what your name is and should be. And yet, every time I see this person, I think, in my mind, it would make sense to call you this. Not like a nickname, just a different name. And what's so interesting is then I had another conversation with Ryan yesterday. We were talking about, our favorite nostalgic candies. And I had mentioned, one of my favorites at Halloween time was Reese's. He's like, you mean Reese's? And I was like, what? No, Reese's. He's like, no, it's Reese's, like Reese's Pieces. And I was like, what's a Pieces? I don't know what that is. He's like, yeah, but that's just what it wants to be called. And, if you've ever talked to me outside of the show, and I'm sure I've done it plenty of times on the show, this idea of like a thing that wants to be something is something I say a lot. But at the same time, I think in these situations, it's so interesting to think about the things that we may be able to objectively know are a certain way and still be able to compartmentalize a feeling that just like that it wants to be something else. And so I guess my question that I'd like to talk to you about, Joey, is why does it feel so right to say something so wrong?
So when we were having this conversation, I was like, this feels like a category error or something, right? Humans are categorical machines. It's sort of like the way
We like labels.
It's the way in which our brains process the environment to accelerate the speed with which we can make sense of our surroundings, contextualize things rapidly. If you were encountering every new thing as a distinct individual thing, it would become really difficult both to communicate with one another, but also to make decisions live, right? Like there is a wooden object with 4 legs and a vertical protrusion and a horizontal surface that I can sit on. Now I'm in a new room and there's another thing that also has 4 legs but looks and feels different. Like if I didn't have a category of a chair to be able to understand that like this is a thing that I can then sit on, then entering into every new space would be like, what's that for? What is that 4-legged object over there supposed to do? Mm-hmm. But what I found in doing the search in our conversation was this idea of category mistakes, which I find really interesting and made me think about the idea of like, when are category mistakes fun or good in this same way that you're talking about? Like our orientation to categories can almost be broken in fun ways, right? Like in the case of this person, you could just start calling them by a new thing, a nickname or something that feels more appropriate to you, and provided they're okay with that, and you know, you can just call them whatever, Bob. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like gender neutral names, Alex. But this idea of category mistakes, when I went on to a Stanford philosophy page to read about it, one of the first things is category mistakes are sentences such as the number 2 is blue, the theory of relativity is eating breakfast, or green ideas sleep furiously. And I was like, oh, I love all of those sentences,
ideas.
Yeah, like the number 2 is blue is like, yeah, I think that might actually be right. Like, I think the number 2 maybe is blue.
Maybe.
And I was like, this idea of us putting things in categories gives you of course, I would think this gives you the opportunity to break it in fun ways that create emergent ideas or like evocations that are fun and interesting. Do you remember, I know you know the show, but do you remember the first season of Invisibilia?
No.
The NPR show? It was sort of you've never even heard of Invisibilia?
I've heard of Invisibilia and that's it.
It was a show on NPR that came from one of the women, Lulu Miller, was an alum on Radiolab, where they were exploring lots of like science-based questions and some philosophical questions, things like that. And they made this show Invisibilia, which at least the first season was primarily oriented around this question of categories. One of the first episodes is called The Power of Categories. But I think the, early on, the first 5 episodes, they have an episode called Entanglement that's talking about like synesthesia, such a hard word to say, where you're having like mergers or crosses in your sensory system where you can, hear colors or see numbers corresponding with shapes, or see sounds, things of that nature. Taste colors is like sometimes a thing for people too. But all of a sudden that idea of like a category mistake or a category error becomes real. And that's fun.
This is the thing, is like when you describe it as a mistake, I mean, I know that you're talking about is this like a
Philosophical
concept? It's like an
concept.
idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it almost, I mean, part of it to me feels like a kind of homonym, except for one of the things, like the alternate meaning is in some cases defined, like in the case of, say like the way fruits have like a scientific definition, but also like a colloquial definition of like sweet produce is a fruit and savory produce is a vegetable, even though technically, quote unquote, like a tomato is a fruit, but it's like also a vegetable in this other definition. But then there's
a
also
pumpkin is a berry, actually.
but
no.
right, but no, right? It's like simultaneously it can be defined as those things, and then the other thing for me that is like kind of bizarre is coming to terms with the idea that, for instance, like a name has an undefined category in my own head that is attributed to like inexplicably certain types of people, and maybe just like the way that they present or look in a certain way, and I have somehow filed away an inexplicable categorization of what that should mean, and that's why when I am presented with what is the actual definition of that name, I'm like, I don't know, I can't tell you why, but feels wrong.
It's not
to
working.
Me.
Yeah, but it is fun to, like, even in thinking about the fact that we are categorical machines, and that is sort of so many cognitive biases sort of emerge from that, like, categorical machine. Like, you can both learn to think better, more effectively by understanding those biases, but you can also, in the flip, use them as a means to, like, create something new, right? Like, thinking about, like, primary research. You're going to conduct research. There's like a thing called projective questions, right? Where you essentially go into a category error to try and, or a category mistake. You ask someone to create a category mistake to find a different pathway into how they think or feel about something, right?
For instance,
if Reese's Pieces were having a party, what would that party look like? Right? Who would be at the party? What would be happening? What music is playing at, right? Like, obviously.
Which is like, that would never, like, that scenario you cannot create, like, that's a candy. Like, it wouldn't be doing those things, but if it were, just like, roll with me here, it would be fun. Maybe it would be Halloween themed for some reason, and also, like, cold, because everything would melt otherwise, so it's like a little chilly in this Halloween-y room.
Yeah,
party.
If we're making this new product and it had two parents that were other products, who would its parents be?
Right? It's like Uber, but for a carnival, and that's Lyft.
Yeah,
it's like those things. It's X for Y. It's these two things had a baby, and this new product came to be.
What does Microsoft Teams smell like?
Oh, goodness, a stale room with the remnant of what once was a staler room.
It smells like a dentist office.
No.
That's what Microsoft Teams smells like. But it by sort of getting someone to do those analogies, you can get somewhere interesting. And in the same way, it creates an opportunity by being broken to force you to looking at like, why is this broken? Why?
Yeah. Like,
and
also, why do I feel pretty strongly that Microsoft Teams smells like a dentist office?
Yeah. Yeah, now that
what
it's
is that
there,
about?
You're never going to unthink
I know.
it. Like,
I like that much better than what I was offering.
Latex gloves and sanitizers and fluorescent light ozone. I don't know.
A mix of sort of like mouth smells.
Yeah, by breaking it, you're forced to analyze it to try and fix it. And then in trying to fix it, you can get to something that you were like rushing past in the efficiency of your mental model is like, that's fun to me. And also like the number 2 is blue is just like a beautiful sentiment. I don't know, like on a purely aesthetic level, it is. I like that.
I feel like if 1 is the loneliest number, but number 2 is blue, then...
I mean, 2 can be as sad as 1.
2 can be as sad as 1. Oh my God, Joey.
It's the loneliest number since the number 1.
So good. It's so true. You're right.
Three Dog Night. We're getting. We're getting.
Explains it all.
Seals and Crofts. We're getting 3 Dog Night in here. This has actually just become Critical Nonsense. Classic rock hour.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am curious what you're going to do about this category mistake that you currently have.
You know what I'm trying to figure out is if part of the issue is that I simply have not collected enough inputs, that because what I really need to do is override whatever. Like,
that's one path. You have 2 paths. Update your category for this person's name to expand to include this person.
Rename them and just like slide and just like hope that it sticks and doesn't offend and just like see if it lands.
Yeah.
Assert the definition.
I mean, I don't know if I've spoken about it on here before, but I went away on a trip that we do annually with like some of my college and high school friends. And we were talking about this person that one of my friends invited to a party at our house that we all lived at in college. And we're like, you just invited this random person from the gas station to a party at our house? Like,
yeah.
Oh, and he's like, yep, I did. And I was like, okay, what's this gas station person's name? And he was like, oh, I don't know. I should have asked that. Didn't think to. But they'll be here. And I was like, we have an incredible opportunity. we can give this person a name right now that is wholly invented.
Right.
And if we sync this name in before we learn their real name, it won't matter because it will be stuck in. And so then we went through a rapid brainstorming.
Got it.
Landed somewhere around Jefferson Starship, the band, also 70s music band, which was an evolution of Jefferson Airplane.
Got it.
And we couldn't decide Jefferson Starship, cooler aviation device, Jefferson Airplane, better band. So we just landed on Jefferson, and this person became Jefferson. His real name was Matt. But
couldn't be more far apart.
People in his life started calling him Jefferson. There were other people outside of our friend group who only knew him as Jefferson.
You know what is wild is I am suddenly having the deep realization that I've done this before too, and that maybe I have accidentally asserted my will several times over the names of people. Maybe not to the degree that you created Jefferson, but I have nicknamed people things that have stuck for years and expanded beyond social circles just by sheer will. And I don't know if that seems like a power that is too strong and yet also hilarious.
I wonder if this naming error, like category mistake thing too, is because you're such an emotional person. I don't say that's like non-pejorative, like you're a highly emotional person. And because you feel emotions strongly, the associations with names and the ways that certain people make you feel are stronger or more solidified. And so that's where like by having strong emotional associations with specific names would create like this person's not making me feel this way, so creates its own category mistake based on emotion feeding into a thing that is inherently non-emotional, right? Like a name is a string of letters. It is not an emotion. It can have an aesthetic appeal, whatever, but it is, by having met someone with that name before, because you just have strong emotions, it's wrong. This person
it's like that just can't be. Well, so and like how obnoxious would it be if therefore because of that, because like it doesn't suit me that I now have to assert that in the universe, even if someone doesn't want to be called this or doesn't, like even if other things don't suit me, like who am I to decide that it should be something different? But at the same time, I don't know, this Jefferson story is giving me some ideas.
I mean, I get this often, and maybe because of like pop cultural instances of Joey that were around, right? Joey from Full House and Joey from Friends, but I very regularly get either you are so a Joey, you could not be Joe or Joseph, like it is Joey and that's it,
Joseph
or
Joseph.
The complete polar opposite of you're not a Joey. And I'm like, but I hear it pretty regularly, and I don't know if that's a product of just having maybe what we might call a fully formed personality, or if it's just sort of maybe everyone gets that relatively frequently. I'm not sure, but it is like a pretty common occurrence for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to like if I asked you to start calling me Jessie, I imagine that would give you some kind of serious rejection feelings of like, no, you're cold. But there are plenty of people who call me that.
Because I only know one Jessie, and this person is also like a very full-fledged, and you have some overlap with that person. But so maybe
it lands.
Yeah, but I don't know if I can.
It's a whole push. Yeah,
I can't let it go.
I know. See, we have all these feelings.
Well,
we hold tightly to our categories. This is our
Jessie's wrap-up corner.
Jesse's wrap-up corner. Yeah, I think I said it. Like, we hold tightly to our categories, even if it doesn't make sense, even if we have no right to be deciding what's right, yet it still feels like what it is. And sometimes that just happens to all of us because it's sort of a human thing to try to put things in buckets, whether it is a true mistake or maybe a happy accident. I don't know. Maybe you'll find yourself being called a funny name that you then identify with because it reminds you of a beautiful blossoming friendship with those random dudes who met you at a gas station one time. You never know what could happen. So stay open, and we'll keep you abreast of the situation, this naming situation. We'll see what happens.
And give me a sweet nickname. God. And also make category mistakes for effect. The end.
Use them, but wisely. Or more, but smart. Okay. A pumpkin's a fruit. No, it's a berry. Dang it.
It's a berry.
All right, let's do it again. A pumpkin's a berry.
And a strawberry is not.
It has berry like in the name. It doesn't.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by Harry's Berries, a strawberry company from California.
They make the best berries.
But apparently not strawberries. But strawberries.
They make the best strawberries. They grow the best strawberries, but they're not berries. So they should have called it Harry's Unique Fruits. Harry's external seeds on a berry.
Moving on.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and strawberry of my heart, Jess Vander.
Aw, thanks. And we'd like to thank sound engineer and actually named Francisco Alex Canta.
Oh, I forget about that sometimes, and it just you broke my brain again.
I know.
We'd like to thank programming coordinator and actually named Otelio, Les Jacobs.
And we'd like to thank our production crew, Sarah, not Zara, Gilbert, and Nora Mestrich, who's just named Nora.
And as always, thank you, Alain. Alain. Special thanks to
you.
Secret names.
Nailed it. Secret names. Oh, is that like a code name?
Secret
or
names.
Is it a spy
names. Name? Can I have a secret
like an
name?
undercover
Can you
identity.
give me a secret name?
Yeah, okay, I'll think of it and then I won't tell you or anyone.
Thanks to Jess for creating a secret name for me.
Cool. You got it. You're welcome.
Sweet. Can I know? Someone can know. Doesn't have to be
sure.
A singular
a tight
secret.
Circle. I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell just Alex, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
Okay. Got it. Nice.
Well,
cool.
That's it. Merry Christmas.
So random. Bye.
Bye.
No, we should have been Happy Halloween. Remember? A random Halloween reference. PCs. Okay.
Pumpkins. Berries.
Why are we talking about
We should start calling Halloween the berry holiday. Ugh. Berries are a symbol of death. Dia de los Muertos.
Okay.
Berries. When is a strawberry actually dead? That's a different
Midnight.
thing. Infinite monkey cage. All right. Well, actually, bye. Love you. Bye.
Actually, bye. See you. I'll record the intro. Thank you, Alex. See ya.